Tonya had always been popular, all throughout middle school and high school. She always had some sort of posse following her around, so no one really was surprised when she became a superstar. Growing up with her, we all just kind of knew. Hi, I'm Kevin, and I'm here to tell you the story of how my superstar crush became my roommate and hired me as her bodyguard. But before anything else, don't forget to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up and hit that notification bell icon to show your support for me. I was busy putting up new posters in my co-ed dorm when she walked in. At first, I had to do a double take because she certainly looked different. Her hair was all perfect. Her clothes were all fancy. Even her shoes looked as if they'd never touched dirt in their lifetimes. But when she smiled at me and a look of recognition lit up in her face, I knew it was Tonya. "Fancy meeting you here," she said in that intoxicating voice of hers. "I should be the one saying that, don't you think?" I replied. "What brings you to school? Don't you, make $1 million by now? I've seen all the billboards. What do you need school for?" Even after being famous for almost half a decade, Tonya still blushed whenever anyone brought up her fame. "Oh, those?" She laughed awkwardly. "Well, I just thought, education's always important and all that. What are you in for?" "Football," I replied. "Got in through a scholarship. Not really sure if I like what I'm majoring in just yet. Still a bit undecided." "Aren't you supposed to be in your 3rd year by now? Well, maybe you'll find something you're interested in while you're here," she said as she dumped her designer luggage on the bed opposite mine. I already found something I'm interested in, I thought. Looking at Tonya at that moment, I felt the feelings I had for her back in high school bubble back up to the surface. I'd always had a crush on her. Well, I think. Probably as far back as middle school when I first met her. At the time, I just didn't know why I always liked seeing her and talking to her. Tonya got her first break in show business at a young age. I think she was 10 when she got her first part in some commercials. It was just a local one. But it led to her being discovered by a few larger brands, which catapulted her to stardom. Then she began missing a lot of school days as her work got more and more demanding. By the time we were in our senior year in high school, she was already walking fashion shows in Milan and Paris. She got to hang out with A-list actors and producers. I heard she was even invited to some party at Ariana's house. Then, when she got cast in a reality TV show, her following grew exponentially. She was a household name by the time the show ended. It all came at a price, though. Tonya never graduated with our class. I guess she just missed too much of the school year. I heard she had to finish her studies remotely, as her job as a supermodel and celebrity tended to cause her to move a lot. I wouldn't have expected her to go back to school. Tonya clicked her fingers in front of my face. "Hello? You still there, Kev?" she asked. I must have spaced out, reminiscing about the past. "Oh, sorry," I said with an awkward chuckle. "Were you saying something?" "Yeah, I said it's pretty lucky you ended up being my roommate," said Tonya. I looked at her and smiled. Yeah, pretty lucky. Tonya and I ended up hanging out a lot. We kinda had a lot to catch up on. And so, that following school year served as us getting back to being friends again. She wasn't doing as much modeling anymore because she decided to go back to school, and that meant she had a lot of time to spend hanging out with me. Lucky me, I guess. She still gets invited to all the big celebrity parties, though. And her fame hadn't diminished at all. I sometimes even get woken up in the middle of the night when her Instagram notifications are blowing up. One night, as I stirred in my sleep because she'd forgotten to put it on silent again, Tonya came to my side of the room we shared. I could see she was shaken and afraid of something. I rubbed the sleep off my eyes, and with a concerned look, I asked her, "Hey, what's wrong?" "Sorry if I woke you again," she said. "No, don't you worry about it." "What's up?" I just got a death threat," was what came out of Tonya's trembling lips. I bolted upright and said, What? What? A death threat?" Tonya began to cry. I forgot to put my phone on silent and it woke me up. When I saw my notifications, I'd received a bunch of messages and voicemails from some girl. And she says she's gonna kidnap me and kill me. She says she knows where I live and where my parents live. I'm scared, Kev. How did she even get my number? I hugged Tonya and tried to comfort her as best as I could, but she wouldn't stop shaking. I can only imagine how it must feel like to be that famous and to be in the spotlight that much that people would send threats. Hey, I'm here. I won't let you out of my sight. I'll protect you, I said. And I meant it. I think I love her. And that brought out in me an instinct to protect Tonya. Tonya sniffled and looked up at me. You would do that? Without question, I replied. From that day on, I went with Tonya wherever she went. Even in some classes that she had, I would sit in when I was free. I walked her back to our dorm whenever she had late classes, and I picked her up whenever she was out. One day, she suggested that I should just work for her. That if I was already protecting her on a daily basis, that I should get paid to be her security detail. After all, if you're willing to keep me safe just because, why not get paid while doing it? She told me. I tried to tell her she didn't need to pay me. That I'm happy to do it just because I care about her. But she insisted. That week, I signed my first employment contract. I was officially Tonya's bodyguard. When she had a photo shoot, I'd be there. When she got invited to movie premieres, I'd accompany her. And even when she went to other celebrity parties, I had to tag along to make sure she didn't get into any kind of trouble. I felt like I was in some sort of dream. I was mingling with people who I'd only ever seen on TV screens and social media. Sure, I was there as Tony's bodyguard, but nobody ever made me feel that. They would always treat me like a friend, especially Tonya. She'd go around the room and always introduce me as her friend first, and her bodyguard second. One night, she asked me to go to an award ceremony after party. Would you want to go with me? She asked. Of course, I said. That's not even a question of whether I want to. I'm your bodyguard. Wherever you go, I'll go. I want to protect you, you know? And I need to, now. Otherwise, I'd be fired, wouldn't I? I laughed. Tonya laughed at that. Well, I kinda wanted to ask you not as my bodyguard. If I had ears that moved like a dog's, they would have perked right up at what she said. Not as your bodyguard? What, like a +1? More than a +1, said Tonya, a smile on her face. What, you mean like a date or something? I asked. And that's when Tonya burst out into full-on laughter. Yes, silly. Like a date or something. I looked into her eyes, and I knew she wasn't just pranking me. My heart swelled with joy. I had no idea she liked me back. So, I had to ask. As a friend, you mean? I said. I cannot begin to describe the anxiety I was feeling in the seconds it took Tonya to answer me. I wanted her to say no. I was begging the universe to make her say no. Tonya gave me a quick punch on the shoulder. She reddened in the face. Are you really gonna make me say it? She said. I nodded enthusiastically, eager to hear what she had to say. I want you to go to this party with me as my date. Not as a friend, like a real date. I like you, silly. And then, Tonya ran off to hide the intense blushing she was going through. I was in heaven. Did she really just tell me she liked me? When she finally returned, she couldn't look me in the eye. I took her face in my hands, and as I looked her in her eyes, I said, You should be ashamed. You have millions of fans and followers, you have celebrity friends, and you choose me? That made Tonya look at me weird. Oh, please. Any girl who doesn't fall for you doesn't know what they're missing, she said. Tonya bought me expensive clothes when I told her I didn't know what to wear, and that I wasn't sure if I could turn up next to her in my 5-year-old sneakers. When we got to the party, she pulled me to the red carpet with her. used to be wherever she'd go to fancy events, I would stay to the side and let her pose for the cameras a good distance away. I was so used to doing that, I didn't even know that as her date, she wanted to pose for pictures with me by her side. She waved at me to follow her, but when I didn't see it because I was too busy scanning the crowd for potential threats, she came back to where I was standing and dragged me to the red carpet. "Why'd you leave me to go on the carpet by myself?" she asked. When I looked confused, she said, "You're my date, remember? Now smile! Smile!" Man, those camera flashes were bright. And they went on forever. All around us, people were shouting Tonia's name to get her attention. They asked who she was wearing, what she thought about the award ceremony, who I was. To that last question, Tonia answered, "My boyfriend." I was not previously informed, but dang, was I more than willing. When the party ended, a limousine took us home. And then, Tonia kissed me. When she pulled away, she said, "About that thing I said at the red carpet. You don't have to be if you don't want to. That can just be for the reporters or whatever." "Who said I didn't want to?" I replied. And then, Tonia kissed me again. We never did find out who sent Tonia those threats. But because of her, I'm now Tonia's boyfriend. And for that person's sake, I hope she leaves Tonia alone.